The ship came down at 9:30 on a Tuesday morning, which is terrible timing if you are trying to make an impression. The Karen district was already at full commute density. 300,000 people moving between towers, the elevated rail running 4 trains to the minute, delivery drones stacked 8 levels high in the approach corridors. And then this vessel, a mid-size retrieval hauler, battered in the particular way that means old money and no maintenance budget, drops through the cloud layer and begins its descent toward Sector 4. I was sitting at an outdoor table on the 42nd floor terrace of a cafe I cannot afford but visit anyway, because the view is worth the price of a single cup. I had a meeting in an hour I was not looking forward to. I watched the ship come down the way you watch something unexpected happen in public, with the specific stillness of a person who does not want to be involved but cannot look away. It was not a warship, that much was obvious. No military markings, no formation, no escort. The hull registry numbers were large and clearly displayed, which is either the confidence of someone with authority or the overcompensation of someone without it. The ship settled onto the emergency pad on the Sector 4 tower base, the pad that exists for medical extractions and civil authority use, not for visiting salvage haulers from the outer systems, and the ramp came down before the landing struts had fully extended. 6 of them walked out. I could see them from where I sat, which tells you something about their scale. Velhari, from the build and the coloring, pale gray skin, broad through the shoulders, the kind of species that evolved in heavier gravity and never quite let go of the posture. Working kit, not armor. Scanning equipment, tablet slates, a survey rod over one shoulder. They stood at the base of the ramp and looked around the way someone looks when they have arrived at an address and are not certain the navigation was correct. I took a sip of my coffee. It was very good coffee. I thought, this is going to be interesting. The Velhari Combine, as I learned over the following 2 days from the public record the city authority released, because Earth does not conduct its administrative proceedings in secret, which is itself a kind of power, had filed a retrieval claim with the Karen District Logistics Office at 0600 that same morning. The claim referenced a depot designation from their own internal records, a storage cache containing survey equipment, mineral core samples, and associated operational infrastructure left at these coordinates approximately 60,000 years prior, during what the Velhari called the survey period. The Karen District Logistics Office received the claim, acknowledged it, assigned it a case number, and routed it to the standard intake queue for third-party structural access requests, with an estimated processing time of 4 to 6 standard weeks. The Velhari factor, the team lead, a heavyset male named something I will not attempt to spell, went to the logistics office in person. He waited in the queue. He spoke to a clerk. The clerk confirmed the case number was active, noted that the coordinates in question corresponded to sub-basement level 14 of the Karen Arcology East Tower, currently occupied by utility infrastructure, maintenance corridors, and the lower terminus of the district's primary heat exchange array, and explained that any access to those areas required a structural survey, a safety clearance, and sign-off from 3 separate engineering authorities. The factor asked how long that would take. The clerk said she could put in a priority request, reducing processing time to 2 to 3 weeks. I have this from the city's own public record, which I read that evening over dinner. The clerk's account is filed under case number 7, Karen EA-60441. She noted that the claimant appeared surprised by the response, which strikes me as the most patient piece of understatement in the document. On the second day, the Velhari escalated. They sent a formal diplomatic communication to the Karen District Authority, invoking property rights under the Outer Systems Compact, an agreement signed between Earth and the Combine's predecessor governance body approximately 11,000 years ago, which Earth's legal office had continued to honor through every successive amendment, because Earth keeps its agreements and knows where every clause lives. The District Authority's legal division responded within the hour. The response acknowledged the compact, cited the relevant article on pre-existing occupancy, noted that the Combine's depot had been formally absorbed into city infrastructure under the Karen Expansion Act of 11,240 years ago. Earth had sent a registered notification to the Combine's last known address, received no reply, waited the legally required dormancy period, and proceeded, and offered to schedule a formal mediation session. The earliest available date was in 6 weeks. I went back to that cafe on the third morning. No particular reason. I told myself the coffee was good, which is true. The Valhari ship was still on the emergency pad. I could see one of the crew sitting on the ramp, looking out at the city, not with hostility, but with the expression of someone who has revised their understanding of a situation and is still accepting the revision. Karen Arcology East rises 2,040 meters from ground level. It houses 900,000 permanent residents, another 200,000 transient workers and visitors, 11 hospitals, 4 universities, and the district seat of civil government. It has been continuously occupied for 8,000 years. The utility corridors that run through its lower levels, the heat exchange systems and water reclamation networks and fiber trunks that form its nervous system, those go down to sub-basement 14 and below, through layers of construction that accumulated across 6,000 years of expansion before the current tower was designed. Somewhere in sub-basement 14, behind a maintenance panel in Corridor 7G, there is almost certainly a sealed survey cache containing 60,000-year-old core samples and a quantity of obsolete scanning equipment. I have been assured, by a civil engineer I spoke to at a party a week after all of this concluded, that the cache is structurally incorporated into the wall at this point. The building grew around it. It is, in a technical sense, now part of the building. The Combine's senior factor arrived on the 4th day, more formally dressed, traveling with 2 aides, the kind of person sent when the people already there have failed to make things move. He requested emergency mediation. The district authority agreed and convened within 24 hours, which was considered quite responsive. The mediation lasted 9 hours. I was not present. The summary is public record. Earth's position, presented by a single mid-level administrator from the District Property Authority who had clearly done this before and found it more tedious than tense, was as follows. The original depot was real. The Combine's historical claim was real. Earth had no interest in disputing the history. The property had been incorporated into functioning city infrastructure, following the legally required dormancy procedures. Removal was structurally impossible without rebuilding approximately 40 meters of load-bearing corridor. Earth offered, in lieu of physical return of the cache, a recorded acknowledgement of the historical claim, a digitized inventory of the cache's contents as surveyed during the expansion, and a settlement credit against the standard maintenance and occupancy assessment accrued over the stewardship period. The factor asked what the maintenance and occupancy assessment came to. The administrator read from her slate, 60,000 years of structural stewardship, calculated at the standard rate for incorporated third-party infrastructure, came to a figure that the public record lists in full, but which I will summarize as more than the Combine's retrieval mission had budgeted for any outcome, by a considerable distance. The factor was quiet for a moment, then he asked if the assessment was negotiable. The administrator said that the assessment itself was fixed by standard rate, but that Earth was prepared to waive it entirely in exchange for a clean departure agreement and a formal Combine acknowledgement that the property transfer, as documented, was lawful and complete. The factor signed the departure agreement the following morning. I heard about the final terms the same way I heard about everything else. The city posted the case closure summary to the public record that afternoon, with the same matter-of-fact completeness it brings to every concluded administrative proceeding. No announcement, no ceremony. The case was resolved. The record reflected it. That was sufficient. The ship lifted at midday. I watched it from the same table, the same cup, the same view of a city that has been absorbing, incorporating, and continuing for longer than most civilizations have existed. The engineer I mentioned, the one who told me about the cache in the wall, made a joke about it. He said the Combine came 60,000 years to collect their survey samples and left having donated them to the building. I laughed. It was a good joke. But I thought about it on the train home. 60,000 years. Every year of that time, someone in this city filed a maintenance log. Someone checked the structural tolerances. Someone updated the record, passed it forward, made sure it was still accurate and still preserved. Not because anyone expected the Combine to return, because that is how things are done here. Because the record is always maintained, and the work is never considered finished. They came to collect what they had left. They found a city. They found that the city had been keeping their property in good order, noting it in the ledger, and would be happy to settle the matter through the appropriate channels. They had 60,000 years of questions about what they would find here. The answer was people who had been too busy building to notice the silence, and too thorough to lose a single document in the years between.